On the day I left the postpartum care center, Jacques Kian came to pick me up. He brought my favorite chestnut cake and a divorce agreement. There was not a trace of guilt on his face. Ione is coming back from abroad soon. So I read the terms on the divorce agreement. The company belongs to the husband and L other property goes to the wife and the child. Perfect, exactly what I wanted. Still, I frowned slightly, feigning displeasure. Jacques, we built this company together through years of hard work. Are you in such a hurry to push me out? Jacques Kian handed me a pen. You know, the company was originally founded to fulfill Ione's dream. So aside from the company, I'll give you everything else. I took the pen from him and signed my name at once, fearing he might change his mind. Jacques Kian looked surprised that I neither cried nor made a scene. After 4 years together, do you have no lingering feelings at all? I glanced down at the baby in my arms, then smiled at him. I wish you and Miss Sue everlasting happiness. After leaving the center, Jacques Kian couldn't wait to drive me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. The moment we got our divorce certificates, I saw a long-lost look of joy on his face. He looked down at me. I need to head home later to pack my things and move out. All right, no problem, I replied gently and calmly. Jacques Kian stared at me. You seem different now. In what way? I turned to look at him, wearing a bright smile. I thought you would ... Throw a huge tantrum? Beg you not to leave? Or plead desperately with you using the baby? I smiled at him. Hurry home and pack up. Miss Sue's flight arrives tonight, doesn't it? Don't be late. It was already evening when we got home. The baby had fallen asleep quietly in the nanny's care. Jacques Kian stared at the little one in a daze. Have you decided on a name for the baby yet? His hypocritical pretense struck me as ridiculous. His heart was already at the airport, yet he still put on the act of a devoted father in front of me. I replied calmly anyway. Henry Chung. Jacques Kian frowned. Henry Chung? This child belongs to the Kian family. I smiled at him. The divorce agreement clearly states the child is in my custody. I paused for a moment. Still, you'll always be his father. When he grows up, I'll never stop you from seeing him if you wish. Jacques Kian sighed, a hint of guilt finally showing on his face. Thank you, Stella Chung. I won't skimp on child support. No need. I refused him firmly. I can afford to raise him on my own. You should go pursue your own happiness first. Jacques Kian glanced at his phone. Alright, then. Goodbye. Goodbye. I waved at him, then slowly closed the door. At last, I was rid of him. After Jacques Kian left, I blocked all his contact information and immediately listed my 3 houses online, pricing each roughly 5% below the market rate. I found buyers for all 3 properties quickly. Using the proceeds from 2 of them, I bought a school district apartment outright. I put the remaining money in the bank to earn interest, keeping enough cash flow to wait for the right chance to make a comeback. Then an unfamiliar number called me. Is this Stella Cheng? This is Ione Sue. Why was Ione Sue calling me? I spoke slowly. Yes, this is she. What can I do for you? Her voice sounded anxious. Jacques has been in a car accident. His blood type doesn't match mine. Could you come donate blood for him? Are you kidding me? It had been almost half a year since Jacques Kian and I got divorced. I'd heard he got married to Ione Sue the very next day after our divorce. Now she thought of me when he needed blood. Did she take me for someone cheap and easy to use? I'm sorry, Miss Sue. Jacques Kian and I have no ties anymore. You've got the wrong person. Her voice turned tearful on the other end. I just came back from abroad and don't know anyone else. You're the only person I can turn to. Please save him. Just came back? Only knows me? Ione Sue's shamelessness was thicker than rusted iron sheet. Miss Sue, having been overseas for so long, you may not be familiar with China's medical resources. As far as I know, Jacques Kian doesn't have a rare blood type. The blood bank has plenty of supply. You should go find a doctor instead of bothering me. I hung up the phone immediately. Jacques Kian and I met through blind dating. At 26, I was pressured by my family to get married. And Jacques Kian was the most outstanding among all my blind date candidates. He was refined and elegant, tall and upright. a master's graduate from a prestigious university, carrying himself like a true gentleman. I asked him, how many relationships have you had before? He looked a little shy, lowering his head with a smile. To be honest, this is my first relationship. Your first? Jacques Kian looked at my wide-eyed surprise. Is it that hard to believe? He then began pursuing me relentlessly. Jacques Kian really hadn't lied to me. What he didn't tell me was that he had always kept an unrequited white moonlight deep in his heart. After marriage, Jacques Kian and I co-founded a film and television company starting from scratch. In recent years, several young artists signed by the company had begun to gain popularity. When registering the company, I asked Jacques Kian what name we should use. He answered almost instantly. Let's call Jai Media. It was only 3 years into our marriage that I learned the origin of the company's name. That day he got dead drunk. The driver helped him upstairs, and he was completely incoherent. In 3 years of marriage I had never seen him this intoxicated. He kept murmuring one name over and over. Ione, Ione, I miss you so much. Ione? Who was Ione? I imagined countless possibilities and prepared myself for the worst. He got up several times throughout the night to vomit, and I stayed by his side taking care of him the entire time. Early the next morning, Jacques Kian saw me slumped beside his bed and touched my face gently with guilt. You've worked hard, wife. I smiled. Last night I heard you calling Ione's name repeatedly. Who is Ione? He hadn't expected me to ask so directly and sat bolt upright in bed. After a long silence, he finally spoke. My relationship with Ione isn't what you think. Then what is it? I asked. He lit a cigarette. Ione and I grew up together. She went abroad a few years ago. But don't worry, nothing ever happened between us. Disappointment washed over me from head to toe. Staring at the man I had shared a bed with for over 3 years, I suddenly felt like I didn't know him at all. I smiled coldly. So all those business trips you took to the UK every year were to see her? Jacques Kian hung his head in silence, not saying a word for a long time. From then on, Jacques Kian and I became strangers living under the same roof. Fate loved playing tricks though. 2 months later, a routine physical exam revealed I was pregnant. For the baby's sake, I once considered giving him another chance. I didn't want my child to grow up without a father. When the baby was 4 to 5 months along, I showed him my prenatal checkup report. Jacques Kian's face lit up with joy. Why didn't you tell me sooner about such big news? Do you even care? I shot back. Of course I do. Jacques Kian lifted me up happily. You and the baby are the most important people in my life. I looked at him. He wasn't a good husband, but maybe he could be a qualified father. Yet the greater the hope, the deeper the disappointment. Jacques Kian spared no expense arranging the best private hospital for me. As my due date neared, I had to stay in bed all day. But Jacques Kian rarely visited. He always said, I have to run the company alone without you here. I'm too busy. I'll come see you when I have time. On the day I went into labor, I nearly had a difficult delivery, spending over a dozen hours in the delivery room. Jacques Kian never showed up. After giving birth, I lay weak in the hospital bed, with Jacques Kian's assistant beside me. You've been through so much, madam. Congratulations on your baby boy. I smiled at her. Where's Mr. Kian? She scratched her head awkwardly. Mr. Kian said an important client is arriving today, so he went to the airport to pick them up. He'll come see you as soon as he's free. I knew every important client of the company personally. I looked up at her. What important client could be more important than his wife giving birth? The young assistant looked troubled. Mr. Kian didn't give details. You've just given birth and are still weak. You should rest first. Judging by her appearance, she had just graduated from university. I didn't want to make things harder for her. All right. I didn't see Jacques Kian until the 3rd day after delivery. He brought a large bouquet of flowers and held it out to me. You've suffered so much, my dear wife. Then he leaned down and kissed my forehead. He then looked at our newborn son. My boy looks just like me. Looking at Jacques Kian, I only felt disgust welling up inside me. The emotions I had held back finally burst forth. Tears streamed down my face, dripping onto the quilt, shocking Jacques Kian completely. I sobbed as I spoke. Jocks, where have you been these past few days? I labored for more than 10 hours and almost lost my life on the operating table. You once said I and the baby mean everything to you. Why couldn't you stay by my side when I needed you most? I broke down in tears, forcing myself to cry even louder. I had to put on this performance for Jacques Kian. It was the only way to deepen his guilt from the bottom of his heart. Already weak from childbirth, my complexion turned pale from crying. Jocks, I can't stop you from having someone else in your heart. If you feel I'm in your way, I don't have to be Mrs. Kian anymore. But can you spare a little of your love for me and the baby when I need you the most? Even just a little bit. Jacques Kian frowned heavily, his expression grave. I'm sorry, Stella Chung. I've wronged you. I turned around and wiped the tears from my face, then forced a faint smile at him. Don't say sorry. You're my husband, my child's father, and the person I love the most. The words made me feel disgusted even with myself, yet they worked perfectly on Jacques Kian. From that day on, Jacques Kian began visiting me and the baby in the ward frequently, acting every bit the devoted father. But every time he came, I would cry about how hard I'd had it. Cry about all the years I'd stood by him as he built his career from scratch. Cry about how deeply I loved him. I knew his temperament well. He would soon grow tired of my constant weeping, and start longing even more for his perfect white moonlight. That would bring him one step closer to taking the initiative to file for divorce. My words were a form of subtle manipulation. When he finally asked for a divorce, he would be weighed down by greater guilt and offer me more compensation. What Jacques Kian never knew was that I was aware of every single meeting he'd had with his white moonlight over those months. Ever since learning of Ione Sue's existence, I'd hired a private detective. I knew every time her flight landed in the city. Finally, after 40 straight days of me crying nonstop, Jacques Kian snapped. He growled at me sharply. Stella Chung, can you ever stop? It's the same words every single day. I'm sick of hearing them even if you're not tired of saying them. I never saw this side of you before, such a stubborn, unreasonable woman. Look around this entire hospital. Is there anyone else who acts so vexatiously? You're just like a shrew. Vexatious? A shrew? I held back the fury burning inside me and asked softly, what do you want then? Jacques Kian fell silent for a long while. Let's get divorced. I'll bring the divorce agreement tomorrow. With that, he turned and strode out of the ward. Little did Jacques Kian know, I had long since made up my mind to divorce him. After all, he didn't have much time left to live. Pulling my thoughts back from the past, I pondered Ione Sue's reason for calling me today. Doctors could easily handle his medical needs, so why reach out to me? We'd gone our separate ways peacefully for over half a year after the divorce. Why contact me now out of the blue? I did my makeup, then dialed Jacques Kian's assistant's number. I heard Mr. Kian was in a car accident? How serious is it, and which hospital is he in? The assistant seemed surprised by my seemingly concerned inquiry. She paused briefly. He's at the 3rd Municipal Hospital. Are you planning to come over? Yes. Miss Sue called and asked me to come donate blood. I thought I might as well do a good deed. After all, we were once married. There's still some lingering affection. The assistant sounded relieved on the other end. All right, ma'am. In Ward 302. Should I let Mr. Kian know you're coming? No need. I hung up the phone. I was determined to find out what scheme Ione Sue was plotting. When I entered Ward 302, Jacques Kian was lying quietly alone in the hospital bed. His head was wrapped in bandages, but there were no other visible injuries. He was staring out the window and hadn't noticed my arrival, so I tapped gently on the door. Jacques Kian turned his head slowly, his eyes widening in shock when he saw me. Stella Chung? What are you doing here? Smiled gently at him. Miss Sue called just now, saying you were in a car accident and needed a blood donation, so I came to check on you. A glimmer of light flashed in his lonely eyes, only to fade instantly. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine. Where's Miss Sue? She's probably gone to pay the medical bills. I see. Since you're all right, I'll take my leave. I turned and walked away at once. Where did you move to? I've been unable to find you. Jacques Kian's voice called out from behind me. I turned back and smiled. Why are you looking for me? His gaze darted away nervously, avoiding my eyes the moment our glances met. I want to see the baby. His earlier offer to let him see the child had merely been a delaying tactic to stir his guilt and push him toward divorce. I would never let him near my child. I gave no reply to Jacques and walked straight out of the ward without looking back. Outside the door, Ione Sue was already standing there, seemingly having waited for quite some time. This was the first time I'd met her in person. She was even more delicate and charming than in her photos. Her features were exquisite, and she even bore a slight resemblance to me. No, it was more likely that I looked like her in Jacques' eyes. I had no desire to interact with her at all, and was ready to walk away. But Ione Sue called out softly from behind, "Sister Stella? It really is you?" Looking at her delicate, innocent, unassuming demeanor, I suddenly understood why Jacques had never been able to forget her. Seeing me remain silent, she went on. "I never expected you to come. Thank you so much, Sister Stella Chang. I'm new to this city and don't know anyone here. I was so flustered earlier that I had no choice but to call you. I hope I didn't bother you." I had no patience for her act. "I'm glad he's all right. I'll be going now." But Ione Sue stepped quickly in front of me to block my path. "Sister, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. Could you spare me a few minutes?" I knew she had an ulterior motive for asking me to come. "What is it?" I forced a smile at her. "It's about Jacques. When he divorced you, he gave you all the family assets, didn't he? The company is facing some difficulties right now. You know Jacques would never bring himself to ask you for help directly. But could you please assist him? After all, the company was built by both of you with so much effort." I found Ione Sue's audacity ridiculous. So she was after my assets, aiming to take everything without a shred of mercy. It made sense. Jacques had left all the property to me and only kept the company. In his mind, the company was a golden goose worth far more than real estate and savings. Jacques and I had divided our work clearly back then. He handled content copyright and film promotion at the company, while I was in charge of artist management and corporate finance. He had no idea the company required massive cash flow to sustain operations. Without liquid capital, the company was like a river without a source, doomed to collapse. With the company struggling financially, Jacques could no longer afford Ione Sue's extravagant lifestyle. There was no way Ione Sue would accept that quietly. Facing her humble plea, I matched her pitiful tone perfectly. "Do you still remember that the company was built from the ground up by Jacques and me together? I already handed the entire company over to the two of you. What more do you want from me?" Seeing my wronged expression, Ione Sue lowered her voice even further. "Sister Stella Chung, Jacques gave you the houses, cars, and tens of millions in savings. We're not asking for much, just 10 million yuan. You can keep the rest to live on with your child." I stared at Ione Sue, genuinely curious how she could say such shameless words without the slightest trace of embarrassment. I sighed at her. "Miss Sue, the company was valued at 200 to 300 million yuan when it planned to go public. The money I received is nothing compared to that." I paused. "I know you studied musical theater abroad. Jacques once said he founded this company to fulfill your performing arts dream. That's why I never fought him over it, and handed over the 4-year-old business I'd worked so hard to build straight to you two. From what you're saying, is the company in trouble?" Ione Sue replied slowly. "Running a business requires endless funds everywhere. Even for the sake of Jacques being your child's father, you ought to help him." With that, Ione Sue pulled a slip of paper from her pocket. "Here's a bank card number. Just transfer the money to this account." Tisk, Ione Sue had planned every detail down to the bank card number. She knew perfectly well whether the money would go towards saving the company or straight into her own pocket. I sighed repeatedly as I looked at her. "Sigh, I truly wish I could help you. Unfortunately, I've invested all my capital in trust funds, and I don't have any liquid cash on hand right now." I looked at her with sincere regret. "I only have 30 to 50,000 yuan available at the moment. If you need it, I can lend it to you to tide you over, no rush to pay it back." Ione Sue's eyes widened like brass bells. "Sister, how can that be? Don't joke with me." I looked at her gently. It's really not that I'm unwilling to help. I truly have no means. Right now. You asked me to come donate blood and I came right away. If I could help, I certainly would. Realizing I wouldn't budge an inch, Ione Sue's expression suddenly turned cold, changing faster than flipping a page. She let out a cold snort. Stella Chung dropped the act. If you don't want to give the money, just say so, no need for this fake pretense. Ione Sue really couldn't keep her composure, revealing her true colors far too quickly. I pulled a business card out of my bag. This is a financing institution. They invested capital in Jamai Media when the company was first founded. You can try negotiating with them. Ione Sue took the card from my hand with flickering eyes. Are you truly willing to help us? Of course. Do you not hate me at all? Everyone has the right to pursue their own happiness. Jocks loves you. My letting go is best for all three of us, don't you think? I paused again. Jocks doesn't look well. You should arrange a full physical examination for him, and get his health checked thoroughly. With that, I turned and walked out of the hospital. Outside, I tossed the bank card number Ione Sue had given me into the trash bin. Then pulled out an alcohol wipe from my bag and cleaned my hands. Ione Sue actually asked if I hated her? It was laughable. Why would I waste hatred on her? After all, her precious Jocks Kian was already a dying man. I couldn't care less. As my child grew day by day, with my mother and the nanny taking good care of him, I finally found the time to rebuild my career. During this time, several artists I'd managed before kept complaining in our group chat. Sister GI, media is completely ruined now. That new boss Ione Sue studied musical theater overseas, and has no clue how to run a company at all. Yet the boss listens to everything she says. The company is extremely tight on project funds right now. We even have to humble ourselves just to land variety show appearances. Another firm once intended to invest in us, but after several rounds of talks with Ione Sue, the deal fell through for no clear reason. Yeah, if things keep going like this, we'll all be finished. I've already lost 2 brand endorsements. Calculating the timeline, these artists' 5-year contracts with the company would expire soon. Half joking and half serious, I said, what if I start a new media agency and sign you all? Would you come? Yes, absolutely. Sister, I've been waiting for this day for ages. I smiled to myself. These young artists were in their career ascending stage, and staying at Jia would only hold them back. This time I named the new company myself, Changyi Media. News that several artists were not renewing their contracts and leaving Jia spread like wildfire, shooting straight to the top of trending searches the moment they all posted farewell statements online. I was in my newly rented office going over artist agency contracts when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but I knew exactly who it was. After hesitating for a long time, I answered on the 3rd ring. Ione Sue's voice came through. Stella Chung, do you really have to be this ruthless? Not only do you refuse to help Jocks and me, you even poach our artists? I challenged her. What do you mean? Don't play dumb with me, Stella Chung. That so-called investment firm you introduced was clearly a stooge you arranged. They demanded original company shares right off the bat. Do you take me for a fool? She flew into a rage, spewing insults non-stop. And now you've lured away all our artists. I never thought you could be so unscrupulous. I have no idea what Jocks ever saw in you. I replied calmly, Miss Sue. Perhaps Jocks Kian never told you. But I personally signed each of these artists and poured tremendous effort into nurturing them step by step. You know how fleeting careers are in this industry, they can't afford delays. As far as I know, GIE's financial situation is far from stable right now. My words only fueled Ione Sue's anger, and she raised her voice sharply. It's all because Jocks gave you all the money in the divorce. I smiled faintly. He did it for the sake of love. Such sincere, beautiful love drove him to abandon his wife and child and give up everything. He deserves everything he's getting now. We have nothing more to talk about. And even if we did, it wouldn't be with you. With that, I hung up. I wondered how Jocks Kian's health was holding up. Clearly, Ione Sue hadn't taken my previous words to heart, and never booked him a full medical checkup. Ione Sue appeared at the venue on his arm, her belly slightly rounded. She was clearly pregnant. Spotting me, Jacques Kian tried to lift his hand to greet me, but Ione Su pulled his arm down at once. I looked at Jacques Kian. His health was evidently deteriorating. His face was pale, his lips bluish purple. Though he looked normal on the surface, he seemed hollow and drained, like an empty scarecrow. During the intermission I stopped him at the refreshment area. Have you had a medical checkup lately? You look exhausted. Jacques Kian looked confused by my sudden concern. Did you come just to say that? Yes. Don't overwork yourself worrying about the company. Your health comes first. Jacques Kian gazed at me. I've just been worn out lately, that's all. How are you? And the child? We're fine, you ... Before I could finish, Ione Su walked over from behind and cut me off. Oh? Still holding on to old feelings? Ione, don't talk like that. Stella Chung and I haven't had any contact in a long time. Watching Jacques Kian now reminded me of the day he once told me, my relationship with Ione isn't what you think. I glanced at Ione Su's belly, then smiled at her. You'd do well to care more for your husband. Noticing my gaze on her stomach, Ione Su lifted her chin and s-ed smugly, my child will grow up in a happy home, unlike some other baby doomed to a single-parent family. Right after she spoke, Jacques Kian tugged at her dress hem. Enough, stop talking. Ione Su struck me as rather pitiful. If she continued ignoring Jacques Kian's condition, her child might lose its father forever. Who was truly the more pitiful one? I paid them no further attention and returned to my seat. In truth, Jacques Kian and I had our annual company physical exam half a year ago. The company arranged routine checkups for all employees, including us too. That was also when I found out I was pregnant. Jacques Kian had been tied up with a project those days, so I picked up his medical report for him. The report clearly stated a large shadow on his lung, suspected to be mid-stage lung cancer, requiring further examination and immediate treatment. Jacques Kian's phone was switched off. Pregnant and anxious, I rushed around trying to find him, only for my private detective to tell me he was with Ione Su, even sending a photo of them sharing a candlelit dinner. In the photo, Jacques Kian wore a radiant smile, one he had never once shown me. After 4 years together, I had ended up nothing but a substitute for his unrequited white moonlight, Ione Su. That night, I left Jacques Kian's medical report alongside the company annual report in his study and sent him a text. Your medical report and annual report are on your desk. Yet Jacques Kian never bothered to touch those documents even when he moved out of the house. His heart belonged solely to Ione Su. Judging by the timeline, without urgent treatment, Jacques Kian would not live past this winter. Time flew by quickly. Under my management, Chengyi Media soon got on its feet. I thought I would never cross paths with Ione Su and Jacques Kian again, until Ione Su showed up at my office door. She looked a little haggard but was still dressed exquisitely in a loose-fitting outfit. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. Stella Chung, Jacques Kian is dying. My baby is going to lose its father. Woo-woo. She sobbed and trembled uncontrollably. Why must fate be so cruel to us both? Having studied musical theater, Ione Su certainly had acting talent. She cried until she slumped to the floor. I gently helped her up and settled her on the sofa. What brings you here today? Ione Su looked at me with feigned sincerity. Sister Chung, the doctor says Jacques only has a few months left. I plan to take him to Switzerland for recuperation. He's always loved the scenery there, so at least he can spend his final days in peace and happiness. She paused. We won't be able to take care of Jai anymore after that. Since the company was built by you and Jacques together, I want to entrust Jai to you. Entrust it to me? What game was she playing now? Looking at her tearful, heartbroken expression, I felt a flicker of compassion. Entrust it to me? Are you not planning to come back from Switzerland? No, we'll never come back. I stared at her. What do you mean you're never coming back? Ione Su slowly pulled several bound A4 papers out of her bag. Sister Chung, your new company is thriving now. Why not take Jai under your wing too? I've had the finance team draft the contract. I can sell Jai to you at cost price. I only need enough money to live on in Switzerland. I snapped out of my momentary compassion at once. She wanted to dump her toxic assets on me for cash? Did she take me for a fool? Still, business was business. I never turned down a profitable deal. If the price was right, taking over Jia wasn't out of the question. I took the contract from her and flipped through it casually. 50 million yuan? I double-checked the number on the contract. It was indeed 50 million. Given GI's current existing resources and industry reputation, I would hesitate even at 5 million. Yet Ione dared ask for 50 million, blatantly treating me like an easy mark. 50 million isn't a little overpriced? I asked with a polite smile. Seeing I was open to negotiation, Ione leaned closer eagerly. Sister Chung, you yourself said the company was valued at 200 to 300 million once. 50 million is nothing to you. Taking over GI will definitely be a profitable move. Profitable? She had quite the nerve to say that. I had no time to waste on her endless haggling. Not 40 million, not even 4 million. I won't take it. Ione stared at me in shock. Are you just gonna watch the company you built with your own hands collapse like this? The company and Jacques Qian were both given to you in the divorce, weren't they? I smiled at her coldly. Please leave now, or I'll call security. Threatened by the mention of security, Ione grew hysterical. Stella Chung, you have no shame. Why is it so hard to get you to fork over some money? You're nothing but a money grubber. She kept hurling insults. You're so calculating. You dumped this huge mess of a company on Jacques Qian and walked away with all the money without a second glance. Walked away with the money? It was Jacques Qian who insisted on the property division. I refused to believe Ione knew nothing about it. Was it your idea to let Jacques keep the company in the divorce? I stared at her coldly. Ione raised her voice defiantly. So what if it was? Blame Jacques for being foolish enough not to know the company's real worth. He told me it was valued at 5 billion. Would I have agreed to take this lousy company otherwise? Ione was consumed with rage, completely unaware that the foolish Jacques Qian she was ranting about had quietly stood right behind her. Haggard and gaunt, Jacques Qian stood silently behind Ione, staring at her with empty, lifeless eyes. I let out a cold snort at her. Isn't yours supposed to be true love? True love? What utter nonsense! Ione trembled all over with fury. If that fool Jacques Qian hadn't kept bragging about how profitable this lousy company was, would I have ever taken a fancy to him? Would I have traveled all the way back from the UK? He's nothing but an idiot. As Ione spoke, she staggered and nearly fell. Jacques Qian caught her from behind. Ione turned around slowly. Jacques? Why are you here? How long have you been standing there? Jacques Qian's voice was hoarse and low. Long enough. After a long silence, Jacques Qian spoke quietly. Let's go. Stop making a fool of yourself here. After that day, I never saw Ione or Jacques Qian again. The last contact I ever had with Jacques Qian was a phone call. He used the company landline, a number I knew all too well. I answered the call. Hello? Yet there was nothing but silence on the other end for a long time. Just as I was about to hang up, his long, unhard voice came through. Stella Chung, it's me. I know. Jacques Qian fell silent again for a long while. I'm sorry. There's nothing to be sorry for, I replied. The past was long gone for me. I had always been someone who could let go easily. Jacques Qian sighed. Ione aborted the baby and went back to the UK. She won't bother you ever again. I see. I paused for a moment. What exactly did you call to say? Jacques Qian's voice was faint on the line, thick with a nasal tone as if he had just been crying. Stella Chung, I just wanted to apologize. Once I could have been a good husband and a good father, doing work I was good at and loved. I could have had such a happy life. But I was blind and foolish, led astray by obsession, and ended up like this. I regret everything. Seeing that I said nothing, he kept talking on his own. Stella Chung, I'm dying soon. I don't know if you believe it, but during my chemotherapy days all I can think about is you. I keep seeing us working overtime together, how you took care of me all night when I was sick. I cut him off impatiently. What's the point of saying all this now? Jacques Qian spoke cautiously. Stella Chung, can I see you and the child one last time before I die? I miss you both so much. He broke down into soft sobs. There's no need for that. If you have nothing else to say, I'll hang up. I have a meeting soon. I ended the call. My heart ached sharply, as if tightly clutched by something. Jacques and I once had beautiful memories, but I could never accept being nothing but a substitute for his white moonlight in his heart. So I chose to let go, leaving him to his beloved white moonlight. After Jacques passed away, he left me a letter, and the remaining 5 million yuan, after he sold off Jia Media. I never opened the letter. Instead, I donated the 5 million yuan to a charity organization, and set up a public welfare fund in his name. I thought this was the greatest dignity I could preserve for him. This story warns us, ***, cherish what you have, and never ruin real happiness for illusory obsession ***. A husband and wife built a business from nothing, but he always regarded his first love as his white moonlight. Right after his wife left the postpartum center, he ruthlessly divorced her to fulfill his first love's dream. He ignored years of marriage and their newborn baby, blinded by obsession, unaware he was seriously ill. The wife stayed calm, pretended to be weak to get fair compensation, then restarted her career and lived confidently. His first love left him when he became poor and sick. The husband regretted deeply at last, but it was too late. It tells us that clinging to unrealistic beauty will only miss the most precious true love around us. We should wake up in time and cherish the present.